Kotono from KOIAI. We have some slightly sad news today, but as always, when there's something like this, which maybe isn't the happiest piece of news, we're going to try and look through it in an honest and positive, if possible, way. Think about the future and try and be happy about the great talent that is out there, like people like Kotono, who we're hoping her health improves, because the announcement that she is going to be stepping aside from KOIAI came up, and it is related to health. Now, as always, when it's something like this, we're going to this is going to be an off-the-cuff episode where I'm just going to talk through the announcement, read through the announcement, a few things like that. But as is always the case, I'm going to try and avoid any conjecture as much as possible, because I think that's the worst possible situation in things in situations like this where people are going through something difficult. Avoid conjecture, just talk about the facts and hopefully give some positive thoughts on where this might lead in the future. Now, obviously, we have her very well-known, very classy photographs from the album takes, and I've got the album here and the photo books here, and KOIAI was like such a big positive surprise. I know that obviously I've known about Lisa X and they've been around, there's been all this activity for a while, but this album, especially Come See Me, for me, it was the sound of a band who had just... everything had come together. Everything was perfect. And I was just waiting for the addition of Wakazaimon to make it like the great 5-piece group. And I even went as far as to do a little, on my main channel, Baka Broadcast, where I do like scripted reviews and things. I did a full review going into why I think this is like Japan's super group, as I said there. I was super excited about this. And so obviously it's tragic for everyone involved that this has had to happen. But I thought, as classy as her pictures are, I want one where she's looking happy, because let's be positive, folks. So here's a little, I found this picture. I thought this was a really nice picture. I thought I'd load this up there. Photos of some nice times. And I just realised this poor guy in the background. Whoever you are, if you're watching this video, hi. But anyway, there you go. It's a nice little picture that we can put up on screen while we're talking. Now, obviously, she has had quite a long career, going back to another photograph. Iron Bunny was, I did not notice when I first heard KOIAI. I did not know she was from Iron Bunny, but there you go, you find things out all the time. And then obviously moving into KOIAI was a position that really allowed her to use her vocals in a much more interesting way. And I did say in my review, and this is something that I think is really very much to her credit as a performer, is that often when we think about great vocals, people tend to lean towards thinking about things like be it Asami from Love Bites, the sort of big, powerful vocals, or the Yuko Suzuhanas with the very stylistic vocals. What really always for me was just beautiful about Kotono's voice is that she had, I love using this word, when someone is effortless, when there's just this sort of class, they sing in a way, and it's just, it sounds so gentle, but then you listen to it and there's a power and there's a quality and there's a real sort of soulfulness behind it all. And for me, she had that quality and still does, obviously. I'm speaking past tense a bit too much here. She has a fantastic quality as a vocalist to just swell up these beautiful sounds. Now, so that's why I very personally felt that she was a big part of what I liked about KOIAI, and why I was so excited about this group. It was what made them so special. On top of the obviously celebrated musical talents of the musicians within the group. Now, let's have a little look at the announcement before we start moving on to talking maybe a little bit more about the future, about potential positives, and thinking about both the future for her and for KOIAI. And obviously there's going to be a degree of conjecture there, but we're going to be talking more about like hopes and things and trying to be positive. Like I say, I'm doing that. I'm being a positive man here, because this was really sad news. It was really sad news. And again, looking at the announcement itself, I'll put the translation there for you. It definitely reads. It reads with a lot of heartbreak. So I'm just going to read through it quickly here. So, notification of departure of vocalist Kotono. Kotono has been the vocalist of KOIAI since its formation in December 2022. She complained of serious throat and ear problems after the recent Yokohama show and sought medical attention. Obviously, this is similar to what we heard with was it Reno from Oldius, and you hear about this sometimes with people. And it obviously. Can you imagine that when you're a singer, you're living your life's dream, and then you have a medical thing that specifically hits that area, that ability to hear and to sing. So I can only imagine just how difficult that must be. So it says here the diagnosis was that she would need at least 3 months of recuperation, and it's not known at this time when she would be able to recover. Incidentally, she's we also heard this from Nemophila singer as well, Mayu, I believe. I believe she had like vocal problems recently that caused them to have to take a little bit of time off. So, it does seem like this whole thing about taking 3 months, from what I'm gathering, it seems to be the general advice that's generally given, like a stock advice, just like leave your voice line for 3 months and then we'll check on it. So I'm imagining that they're probably, without too much conjecture, I'm imagining they're probably at the moment trying to work out the state of play. Based on interviews, it said, based on interviews with her parents and voice trainer, so I'm assuming in-person discussions, the members and I, as producer, let me read that again. Based on interviews with her parents and voice trainer, the members and I, as producer, discussed the matter and decided that stopping KOIAI's activities until she recovers will put too much pressure on her psychologically and could hinder her recovery. So Kotono has decided to withdraw from KOIAI and concentrate on her medical treatment. That obviously is quite a big line there, because it's the fact that they discussed the idea of putting the band on hold. And it shows how much she loves this group, that they discussed it, but she decided that it would be too much pressure on her to have the group waiting for her. And that it's tragic in a way, but I also think it's very honourable. I mean, it demonstrates people. It's psychologically for herself, but only because she cares about the group and she wants everyone else to do well. So I think that's the bit that, there's another bit later on, but that's one of the bits that really hit me there, because you can only imagine this isn't her fault. She's come across this, and that must be so difficult. But she's done this because obviously there seems to be that feeling that it's better for everyone to keep on going, and that's obviously going to raise the question of how do they keep on going. So the next paragraph says, it's with great sadness that I have to, and this is written by the producer as mentioned, it's great sadness that I have to report this to all of you who have always supported KOIAI, and I'm sorry that I have not been able to provide adequate care for her, as she is a very hard worker and tends to push herself too hard. And that's the other bit which got me, and I want to mention this because this is something that might not come up much. So this was written by an individual called Issei Ambo. Don't know much about this person. Obviously, for the producer, as it says here. And that bit really hit me hard as well, because I think so often when we talk about like bands and stuff, people are big fans of the band, and then you talk about things like producers and people in charge of that, and you can hear the tone shift with a lot of fans, and there's this real feeling that they're talking about someone like, oh, that's a company person, and it's like if the band ever does anything that a super fan doesn't like, they'll be like, oh, I bet it wasn't the band, I bet it was the manager. And we had this with Bandmade when they changed management recently. They didn't really change management, just their management company dissolved, and they took most of the people over and made a new company out of it, so it was mostly the same people from everything we saw from the press releases, but everyone was like, oh, they're free from the oppressive management, and you're like, what were they not letting Bandmade do before? So there tends to be this narrative that, oh, company people so bad, all that, and yet you look at something like this and you can just, it is true, people who work in these positions like producers and that kind of thing, most of the time they work in there because they love music just as much as anyone at home, probably even more so. That's why they went off and made it into their job. So these people love what they do. They love the artists they work with. I mean, everyone who's ever complained about me bleating on about Caramel Candid every 5 seconds, it's because when you work with this stuff, you love it. And so I can feel the, when she says there, I'm sorry I wasn't able to provide adequate care for her, you can hear the pain in that. And that upsets me, because obviously you want all these people to feel good. So it must be really hard for everyone right now. Lisa X, Hazuki, and Kanade have made the decision to continue KOIAI, which they have created with Kotono, rather than lose it. Again, the wording there is perfect. Mentioning continue with KOIAI, which we created with Kotono, making it clear that she is still a part of the DNA that will never be removed, rather than losing it. So again, keeping that going. For the time being, we intend to continue our activities with support vocals while discussing with the relevant parties. Now that actually I think is quite interesting. So looking for some of the positives that we can look at moving forwards, at least this could be something that, once they get back onto sort of doing those things, this could end up being something where you have a bit of fun. And, ultimately, if they're continuing KOIAI and Kotono stepping aside, then at some point they will be assumedly looking to have a full-time singer. I mean, you never know. It could be that could be their thing. They could be a group where every single song is guest vocals. Like one of those albums that's actually like it's the album. The title name on the album is the producer, and the producer just brings in different songs to sing all their songs. It could be like that. KOIAI could just be a band who actually Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra do a similar thing, don't they? It was like, just most of their songs are sung by famous artists. It's like, let's have Puffy, let's have Aiko, let's have just anyone who's famous right now. Bring them. I've mentioned some old bands there, didn't I? Let's bring in anyone who's famous right now, get them on the microphone, have some fun. Yeah, KOIAI could be that. But I think nothing else. What's most likely is that this turn of support vocals will give them an opportunity to get a feel for maybe what kind of vocalists they could work with in the future, maybe even find their potential next vocalist. That tends to be how it happens. I mean, like, I seem to remember like when Trident brought on Nagisa as the drummer, like Nagisa had been she'd been support drumming for them occasionally, I believe, before that happened, and there had been some contact beforehand, and you hear about those things all the time. And so that's a good tactic. I think it's a good tactic because it allows them to continue working, get a feel for what they want without committing to anything, and maybe even also kind of be actively auditioning. So I think that's a really cool idea for KOIAI. Maybe it's the obvious thing. I know that that's kind of what groups tend to do these days when a member steps aside for whatever reason. But I think it's a really good tactic, and I'm glad that they're employing it, especially considering it is a big thing to do that with your lead singer. To have your lead singer as an artist who's on a rota, that's an interesting thing. It changes your whole dynamic, the way you work with the audience, everything. It's going to be very interesting to see how they deal with that and how the crowd reacts to it. But then again, that could just amplify how effective an auditioning process it is, because you are at the front of the stage. Your audition is not only with the band, but you're being auditioned by the audience at the same time. So that could be really cool. Be interested as well if you're a ticket holder who I don't know if they've already sold tickets for these shows. I actually don't know what their upcoming calendars are like. I should have checked that. But if they have already got shows booked, I would love to know how ticket holders feel about this. It's going to be really interesting. You don't know who's going to be singing for them. That could be intriguing. Please let us announce the details of correspondence for each of the scheduled shows again. Oh, okay. Sorry. This says that right at the bottom. Okay, so we'll get to see a little bit of an update of that. All members hope that Kotono will fully recover without being rushed. And again, that is something that's worth putting in there. I really hope and I believe there'll be an outflowing of caring, beautiful messages from everyone to I just hope that the messages are all just ones of take care of yourself and take your time, because ultimately the most important thing, without a single shadow of a doubt, is her health. It's more important than any of this, anyone's careers, any of that. The most important thing obviously is her health. But considering that, I mean, it mentions about the psychology of not wanting to delay the band. I'm sure there's a big part of it as well, which would be the psychology of just wanting to get back into music at some point. I mentioned earlier about the example of Reno, who was the second or third singer for Audius, and then they had another subsequent singer for Audius. But I mean, obviously she went on to have a solo career. Now, obviously it was never going to quite hit the heights of publicity that when she was with the band, but it does seem that she's had a lot of fun doing that. And I don't know, I mean, Kotono is very young as well. She could do anything from this point if and when she recovers. I certainly hope she recovers. I mean, that was with the whole Reno thing. I wasn't even super following. I was just like, I hadn't followed her career particularly closely, but I was so brokenhearted when I heard about that like I started following her career. I was so happy to see her come back and do stuff. So, with Kotono, I just desperately hope it goes in that direction at some point. And luckily, she's still young. But with this, I hope that maybe she decides to do something solo. Maybe she finds another band. I mean, certainly there seems to be nothing but love for her from her bandmates. And her bandmates are well connected. Let's not forget about this. You've got people like friggin' Lisa X, Hazuki. These are, I mean, Hazuki, just from doing Now No Yaon with Never Feeler, has got enough connections. And you've got Lisa X, who's just like being passed around the industry. Everyone wants to work with her. These are like top name people on their own. That's even before we even mentioned Candid, actually. I forgot to even mention Candid, who on her own right has got plenty of connections. And then obviously this producer, who seems to be, from everything I read here, I get that I'm inferring that this producer is just like a bang up good person. And again, please, just remember, respect the people who work behind the scenes as well. Like the suits, respect them, because a lot of the time they love music. I know a lot of you guys do, but you've probably seen what I mean when you read the comments sometimes, and there's people who treat anyone who's not directly in the band like they're some manipulating influence. And so, this just seems like such a group of heartfelt, lovely people who really care about this. So my feeling is that when Kotono's back up on her feet, she's got people who will want her to do well, who want to make sure she's connected with the right people, who want to make sure that her name is in the right inboxes, and that the right people are informed of her intentions to continue her career. So I have no idea what will happen with Kotono. The only thing I hope, obviously, good health, recovery. And hopefully Reno is a precedent that recovery is possible, and rewardingly so. And then when we get to that point, I think the most reassuring thing here is that Kotono is supported by good, well-connected, not just any old band, like a proper supergroup of friends who love her and will make sure that she's connected to the right people. So I feel hopeful for Kotono, even though we have got no idea what is going to happen to her. I feel hopeful, which is why I genuinely hope that she does actually. The more I think about it, I just hope she takes probably more time than she needs. Just really just back out of it, just relax and just get better is what I hope she does. And it again, you know, that the more I think about it, that seems to really, I told you I'm doing this off the cuff, that seems to really permeate in this message, is that when they say about, you know, all members hope that Kotono will fully recover without being rushed, I think that's the point. Is it's like, look, and you know, the whole psychological thing about them not wanting the band waiting for her is like, look, let's just, you need to be over here doing your recovery. That needs to be 100% what you do. And then when you come back around, I think that's the thing. I think they've probably said that to her. Again, conjecture, apologies, but I think it's reasonable to assume from a positive standpoint, it's probably because when you're surrounded by these people, they've said to her, don't worry, when you're better, we'll make sure that we find you a new path. That would be the one bit of conjecture I'm willing to throw in there, because I think that's a positive and almost undeniable message that I hope that you as the listeners and KOIAI fans bear that in mind, because I hope that's something that we can all be happy about, is that's her route back. As for KOIAI, yeah, seems like they've got a pretty cool system already in mind. Let's do the vocal auditions live on stage. Let's use the crucible of the live house as a place to work out who's going to sing next. So it could be really cool. We could get a really cool, exciting phase, hearing who's going to be the next performer for KOIAI. In a way, there's a certain benefit. I know KOIAI have been around for a while, but really, Come See Me is the first album here in Japan. It's the first album, even this was pretty small, but it's the first album that I felt really started to have an impact beyond just musos. Like, this was the first one where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I think more normal rock listeners are going to be hearing this, not just the musos. So it's kind of good that they haven't had too many big hits yet, because when you have too many big hits, it's really hard for a replacement person to come in. Even when you get drummers, you know, drummers are usually the ones who get replaced, right? Drummer will leave because they're always in the background. Poor bastards. And yeah, it's always difficult for a new drummer come in and replace that poor bastard, because of course they come in, and if the band's already had a bunch of hits, then they're the person who basically, everyone else is in the band, they're in a cover band, because they're playing someone else's drum line, someone else's songs. Every time anyone goes, oh, you're in that band, and then loads up the music video, they're going to see someone else's face. So if the band's already got a ton of hits, it's very hard to keep the replacement member, which is why usually once you get a replacement member, that'll be a revolving door as much as you try and keep them, unless you then have bigger hits. So I feel like this is maybe, at least it's an early time in the career for KOIAI. Yeah, they've had a few albums, but early time in terms of potential success. So at least the new singer has a chance to make a mark for themselves and make the band their own. I do hope they go in a similar direction. I'd be kind of sad if they come with a big, loud power singer. You know, something different might work. It's cool. But in a way, I almost want that like Wednesday Campanella vibe, where they changed the singer to a totally different person. And I, as a Wednesday Campanella fan who doesn't really keep up with the news, well, at the time I wasn't really keeping up with the news so much, I didn't even notice. As I knew songs came out, I was like, voice changed a little bit. I didn't even notice as a new person. Obviously, I don't mind this new singer sounding a little bit different, but I hope it's someone who still uses that sort of understated, soulful power that Kotono gave to KOIAI, which to me set them so far apart. There were so many things that are great about KOIAI, but that vocal style set them so far apart of many of their peers, because they had a soulfulness, a jazziness, like a sort of restrained, mature quality that then when they did pump in those hard songs, you felt them. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm hopeful for Kotono. Let's all give good wishes. Let's put the happy picture back on the screen. Happiness. Wow, their heads are bigger in the shot than mine now. Yeah, but this is something where they're always going to be friends. I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. Conjecture maybe, but hey, good friends stay good friends. So I am genuinely hopeful that these wonderful ladies all have a lot to be looking forward to here. And as tragic as it is right now, it looks like we've got the groundwork for some exciting things. We've got the groundwork for KOIAI with all kinds of different vocalists. What can come out of that? And we got Kotono with who knows what her career will be in the future. She's young enough and she's talented enough and she's clearly hardworking enough. You read it in the message yourself. Push herself too hard. Well, hey, it's a learning lesson as well. Yeah. So fingers crossed. Let's stay hopeful. Let's stay positive. Please, if you are a fan, send positive messages. As it says there, I know you guys are all smart, but just try and avoid anything that's like, can't wait to see you sing it again. It's like, no, please don't send that to her. Just send her positive messages for her health. Let her know that she's loved. And support to them all. And thank you, by the way, for being the sort of person who'd sit down and watch a video like this, because as annoying as my waffles can be, people seem to watch them for some reason. And I do think that genuinely, I think this is, I know that if you're here watching this kind of video, it's because you genuinely love and care about music. So yeah, thank you for being someone who cares about this culture. I appreciate you for being here. Like, comment, all that usual stuff. And until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these, this is empty. I do need to get some coffee. And for now, ciao, ciao.